What's up, beautiful people? I'm Nathaniel Pearl,
And I'm Sam Sheva.
and welcome to Curious Chimps Podcast, a show where we explore the infinite complexities of the human experience.
We do not endorse anything illegal, so please consult doctors, do your research, and for the love of all that is holy, be safe. All right, let's talk about drugs.
Curious Chimps.
Start Curious Chimp. What was the passion behind it?
Honestly, I talked about this with a friend yesterday, and we kind of started off with this idea of promoting psychedelics, actually,
Really?
of all things. Yeah. So we kind of came together from a massage course, and we had a lot of ideas of like holistic health and all these things. And then he introduces me to things like specifically ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the big one. It's the popular guy these days.
Yeah.
And and then it just kind of turned into like, hey, we want to get some guests on, and then it's like, honestly, self-help and psychedelic experiences, maybe without the actual plant medicines, and just like a kind of community building as well. We're kind of exploring it as we go, and now.
You guys know
Yeah.
that I teach a class at McGill called Herbs, Foods, and Phytochemicals, and we actually look at the biochemistry and the phytochemistry of ayahuasca as part of the course.
Interesting.
I
Whoa.
did not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was actually at noon. McGill is having these all of the classes in the fall semester are going to be taught virtually online. And it's causing a lot of havoc and fear, and because a lot of professors just, they're old and they just don't know how to not do exams, or you can't do exams virtually. And I don't know, it's just I'm getting nervous because they're saying, like, I know a lot of you have already started to prepare, and I'm thinking, like, shit, I haven't done anything to prepare. I guess I'm younger than your average old professor, but ooh. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I got to figure out, instead of exams, I got to do assignments. And one of the assignments, I'm always at war with the ethics community, because one of the assignments I would have loved this as an assignment was try an herb or a medicinal plant or a supplement that's botanical, and do an N of one study. Everyone does it. There's no danger in it as long as it's not psychedelic. Ethics shot me down. It says you cannot ask a student to take something for marks. And I thought, but it's like cinnamon. It's thyme. It's rosemary. It's like, they said, nope, you can't. I go, oh, damn it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
That's too bad. That sounds really cool. That's the kind of teacher I want. It's like, get your hands dirty, see what's going on. Like, we're all scientists.
Yeah, I thought my war with the ethics office. Yeah, they know me well this semester. Yeah, they like me very much.
I mean, if my 90s, like Patch Adams movies and stuff like that has taught me anything, it's that you're doing a good job. You're pissing somebody off.
Okay,
That's
just we're recording. If you want to just do a little intro so everyone knows who you are, and we'll continue from there.
Sure. I'm Dr. Patrick Owen. I have a Ph.D. in nutrition from McGill University. I'm actually a lecturer at McGill University in the School of Dietetics and Human Nutrition. I teach a course about herbs, foods, and phytochemicals. But on the side, what I do is I have a business, a consultation business, all about ancestral health and functional nutrition, which is basically trying to help people lose weight, get healthier, overcome metabolic disorders using an evolutionary approach.
Interesting. Wow.
I gotta be honest, when we spotted you and Nate was telling me we're gonna get this guy as a guest, like, I was so excited. And then I don't know if Nate did the same thing, but I kind of promised myself to do like almost like as little research as possible. I'm like, this is like, we're gonna just let this guy talk. We're gonna have so many natural questions come up. Like we're going in dry, and just the intro and the fact that you like ayahuasca is part of your curriculum practically, like that's
Yeah.
fascinating. Like I'm I'm stoked. And not even a minute.
We actually, this is the way I designed it. I actually designed it so that we look at the nervous system first. Now, I know that your experiences with ayahuasca and other psychedelics, they're kind of pleasurable. But from a plant's point of view, the plant is just, dependent, right? But from the plant's point of view, it only has one purpose, to discourage it from being eaten. So all these things that have a biological effect on us, they were developed either protected from its environment, right? As soon as life emerged from the oceans, plants obviously conquered the land way before any kind of animals, and plants had to protect themselves from dangerous UV rays. So they protect themselves with waxy cuticles, antioxidants, retaining water, increased vitamin and mineral absorption from the air and the soil as well. But then when animals came on land, they had to protect themselves from being eaten. And they developed a huge chemical and physical, like thorns and spikes and things. But chemicals, they had to go chemicals because there's like this battle of evolution. Whereas if a plant developed these massive spikes, then you have a dinosaur, for example, who can just like crunch these spikes. And so there's been it's chemical warfare out in nature. And it just so happens that some of these chemicals elicit a kind of pleasurable or beneficial or nutritional benefit amongst us. But if we were insects or smaller mammals, we'd be screwed.
Wow.
If we ayahuasca, which is the vine Banisteriopsis caapi, well, we wouldn't have an effect because we need another, we need an MAO inhibitor, right? So, but let's just say you eat a psychedelic plant, your ability to survive has diminished greatly. So if a line pops out and then you're high, you won't survive. So the plant has done its job. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the
plants. That's an interesting. Wow.
If you look at from the point of view of plants, they can be evil if you think about it. Look at soy. A lot of legumes actually have estrogenic effects. They mess up your sex hormones. So when an insect or a small mammal or amphibian, whatever, eats these kind of plants, they're not able to reproduce. That's the plant's greatest weapon. You're going to eat me? I'm going to make sure you're not going to have any babies.
Whoa.
I never thought of it that way. Like in the smaller animal kingdom, like you're really messing with these tiny volatile systems, whereas you're just kind of like I know this term from Dr. Rhonda Patrick on the Joe Rogan podcast. She talks about hormesis a lot.
Yeah.
And it's about the idea that there's natural pesticides in plants and it is hurting you. And it's like, it's hurting you a little bit and it's actually creating this kind of like immunity response. Like you're kind of getting a callus in a way, like in a very simplistic way. So if you're a fly, like your stomach explodes or something.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But
wow.
a student of mine asked me, what about gluten? Is gluten a hormetic thing, right? And it's not, because hormesis means that if you take a small bit of it, it's beneficial. But if you take too much of it, that's harmful. So it has a U-shaped curve, right? But gluten has zero benefit. So it's not considered hormetic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's just no...
Exercise, cold showers. Certain phytochemicals certainly do promote hormesis, where you just have a little bit and there's an actual benefit to it. It's good. But in terms of gluten, lectins, oxalates, these things that disrupt your gut bacteria, your gut flora, digestion, that cause leaky gut, has zero benefits. So it's nothing to do with hormesis.
I wanted to ask you on that key point about soy, because that's like a big alternative that's being pumped out for the vegan movement and all that. And I'm hearing mixed signals from, is soy good or bad? Is it producing more estrogen in the body and all that stuff? I personally stay away from it, but I'm not well informed on what the effects soy actually has on the body. So maybe you can just enlighten me a little bit on that one.
Sure. Well, soy does have a lot of benefits. In the East, where it's used traditionally, it is associated with reduced rates of breast cancer, and that makes sense. There are two major phytoestrogens, which means that there are compounds that mimic the effects of estrogen. And since breast cancer is a hormone-based or hormone-sensitive cancer, it makes sense. Now, here in the West, however, there's an inverse relationship. The more soy that you eat, the higher your risk of breast cancer. So what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
The answer is simple. In Asia, the main source of soy consumption is fermented soy. So fermented soy is miso, natto, and tempeh. Whereas here, I laugh at this, the main source of soy is cookies, ice cream, I don't know, not even tofu. Soy is the most ubiquitous plant on the planet because it's in almost everything. When you look at the labels of everything and it says may contain corn or soy oil or starch, it's
everywhere.
It's everywhere, just like corn. It's subsidized. It's so can it affect with your hormone systems? That's a very gray area in research. Very, very gray. There are some studies that say yes, men who consume more soy will have reduced testosterone. But there are other studies that will debunk that and will show the opposite. So it's my opinion that, well, if I get into the opinion of nutrition research, I hate nutrition research actually, because it's hard to pinpoint one food in such a complex system as the human diet.
It's a good point.
But if I were to really look at it, it makes sense to me. And if it makes sense from an evolutionary point of view, then I try to stay away from it. And so I discourage it. So if a vegan comes to me or a vegetarian who is eating a lot of soy, they will have a meal plan that is packed with tempeh and miso.
Nice.
I don't know if have you ever tasted natto?
Natto. That I never had.
TTO? Check out on YouTube the Natto challenge. It is a disgusting, slimy, snotty
challenge.
I had it. I challenged it. Some of my friends at the gym. I brought it in the gym, which was a bad idea because you turn a stinky place into an even more stinkier place. It was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to derail your like the topic or anything, but I'm just curious. Like, is there any times when people shouldn't eat fermented foods? I feel like I've heard about that. Like there's some people where like kombucha or something like makes them worse. And this is now we're getting in, like we're jumping into gut bacteria stuff. So like I know it's another conversation altogether, but I'm just curious.
Well, some of the latest research. Here's the idea. To ferment a food, you need certain bacteria. And we figure, well, these foods contain bacteria, beneficial bacteria, and if we eat more of them, we're basically just putting in some good guys into our gut. But here's the sad fact. More and more research, more up-to-date research shows that the more fermented foods you eat does not necessarily benefit your gut flora. And again, I believe that it's because of the complex all around, not only human diet, but also our stress levels, our exercise levels, our exposure to sunlight. All these things affect human health. And all of this will affect your gut bacteria. So say, for example, Sammy, let's just take you for example. You're super stressed. You're not sleeping well, right? You're experiencing more constipation. And all of a sudden you're eating a whole bunch more fermented food. Well, think of your gut as being really blasted, right? We're bombarding this forest of microflora. So you basically have a very barren field. You're not healthy. You're not digesting well. You're not sleeping well. The whole thing, right? You're going down a downwards path. So by reintroducing good bacteria, that might sound like a good thing. But in fact, what you need to do first is lay the soil down, lay the good foundation down. So say, for example, you're eating too much sugar. You're too stressed. You're eating way too many refined foods and processed foods. You're actually promoting the growth of bad bacteria or pathogenic bacteria. So what you need to do is actually reduce the amount of pathogenic bacteria in order to reintroduce the beneficial bacteria. So if you're taking a lot of fermented foods, you're not going to have much more effect. And if anything, you're just going to disrupt your system. And of course, we're all very individual with how sensitive we are to these disruptions. So these disruptions are easy. If you guys eat sugar or processed foods and you quit cold turkey, guaranteed within the first 2 or 3 days, you're going to feel like crap.
Absolutely.
You're going to feel like this is horrible. I'm eating vegetables. I feel like puking. I'm eating healthy. Why do I feel like you're going through a transition? And the transition begins, you're starving out the pathogenic bacteria that rely on sugar and junk and processed foods. And of course, the bacteria communicate with your brain via your immune system and your nervous system, your enteric nervous system. And the brain also becomes addicted to these kind of sugars and processed foods because they're giving the signal, hey, we want this. Give us more. We got it. And then that sets the circle for cravings and even more addiction to carbohydrates and sugar.
I'll use myself as an example because I honestly, like I've said it a few times in the podcast, but I have a legit addiction to processed foods and like junk food, like that whole category. And I've been able to control it with IF, the intermittent fasting.
Perfect.
And more recently, I've been doing keto on and off for years. And then now more recently, I've been on pretty strict carnivore diet. And
nice.
I found for me personally, that's been like the life-changing experience, just doing carnivore, all meat. But I've noticed, because I've been on and off, so I noticed when I go back on carnivore, which was 2 weeks ago, I was going through like withdrawal symptoms. Like I literally started having sweats. I started feeling like dizzy, nauseous, craving sugar, craving specific things that I would go out and buy at night, And it's like, I was really understanding the deep connection between the gut and the mind. Almost gave in a few times, but like, it's crazy how it's embedded in there. And it can actually dictate your decisions,
100%.
Yeah, man, it was a
So
wild.
how long have you been on the carnivore diet?
So this is my second time going on it. I usually do it for 1 to 2 months, and then I go back to keto, and then I'll go back to carnivore. But I'm 2 weeks in right now, but I'm going to continue because I've never felt this good before. Like I think I'm finally getting my trek on.
That's fantastic. I put a couple of my clients on the carnivore diet because they were suffering from severe autoimmune disorders, and ironically, all 4 of them were ex-vegans. So now they're doing a complete 180. And one of them couldn't do it just like mentally. They just like, they just felt horrible. But the other 3, amazing results. So I went on Narcity once to actually talk about the carnivore diet. And I think the main benefits is that it's something similar to a protein sparing modified fast. So the carnivore, you've heard these myths about meat takes like years to digest in the gut.
Yeah.
You heard these myths?
I heard a steak used to take 8 hours to digest. That was what I was taught.
It does slow digest, but it doesn't just like rot in your stomach. I mean, that's just fallacy.
They say it petrifies or something, like it stays there for days. It's like, no, man. Like my friend was like, I know a guy who's got like those colostomy bags or something, and it's like, dude, it's out there in a couple of like minutes, hours. Like it's not how humans work.
And it's out there, right? So they actually did studies with colostomy bags, and they found out that there's very little, you eat meat, and there's very little that comes out compared to an omnivorous diet. We have all these undigestible fibers and undigested food materials. So that actually proves that we digest almost 100% of meat and fat.
Yeah,
that's interesting. So, like the benefits of fasting is that the machine can like run itself clean, sort of. So meat runs through the machine clean. It's like clean fuel in that sense. Like I never knew that. I didn't think of it that way.
Well, clean. What's clean? I don't know.
Well, there's less stuff, like I'm relating it to the benefits that I think about when I think about fasting, like you instead of running the machine and kind of putting like miles on your engine in a simple way. So there's like it's using every part of a cow in a literal sense.
You got a point. One of the main benefits of fasting is you give a break to your digestive system. And if you give a break to digestive system, you give a break to your immune system. And one of the main reasons it's called autophagy, right? So once you once you get rid of these really high energy demanding systems like digestion, then your body is free to take all that energy to clean house. And we're only going to see this through extended fast, right? We're thinking like between 32 and 36 hours of fasting.
Okay.
The carnivore diet doesn't put you into autophagy, but it kind of mimics fasting because you absorb so much of the meat fast. And nothing against fiber. Fiber is amazingly beneficial for you. But more and more research shows that we actually make our own fiber. It's called mucin from the mucus of our own digestive system. And yeah, so I think the whole field of nutrition, because of these extreme diets, we have to rethink about the importance of things that we thought were like crucial before. But again, it has to be in the context. So say, for example, you're switching from carnivore to keto. Guaranteed that you're going to feel like crap if your cortisol is too high because of too much stress, for example. So then too much stress means that your increased appetite, increased carb cravings, and your serotonin is going to go down. So if you're stressed and you're avoiding carbs, you're actually going to feel more and more and more like shit as the days go by. And so, so all of a sudden you refeed with carbs and you feel so much better. Is it the carbs, or is it the cortisol, or is it the serotonin? It's your life encompassed,
Absolutely.
If you say like, hey, I've been working on this project for 2 weeks, I haven't been outside very much, I've been sitting on my butt, that alone can raise your cortisol. Heck, watching too much screen time, and we're all in front of screens way more because of the quarantine. Just more screen time will raise cortisol. More Netflix will raise cortisol. Not that it's stressful, because we're being stimulated. And cortisol is an action hormone. If you're stimulated because you got to check out social media and Netflix and YouTube, all that constant stimulation, we're afraid of being bored.
Yeah.
And this gets into a huge thing about dopamine and dopamine addiction. But yeah, all that is related to cortisol as well.
It makes me think of the cold showers also, and like Wim Hof, and how he promotes adrenaline in his body, and how, again, I don't know this stuff well, I'm just kind of parroting, but like cortisol will stay in the system and it'll kind of wreak havoc, whereas adrenaline's going to come in, and I don't know if I'd say hormesis in this instance also. Yeah, so it will stress you, but it will leave quickly, and there's all these benefits because it's like it's a hormone or something. Like it's doing its job and getting out, whereas cortisol is lingering, and it's literally this thing that's signaling you to be stressed out, and then you're constantly re-upping, so it becomes chronic instead of acute. And
you got it. I love you guys. It's awesome.
We're curious.
Carnivore, keto, Wim Hof, man. You guys are in my tribe.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. I
told you we didn't prepare for this at all. We're like, let's just talk to this guy. It's gonna be great.
So the benefit, actually, this is a true story. I've actually gotten 2 people off of antidepressants by using cold showers as a thing. Wow. And here's how it works. So cortisol is an action hormone, so it gets you up naturally in the morning, is a cortisol awakening response, but it's also stress. So cortisol is an ancient hormone because it's action. And the opposite of cortisol is melatonin. And so that dictates your sleep-wake cycle, your circadian rhythm. It's a balance of cortisol in the morning, it dies down at night, and it lets melatonin rise up, and that's that hormonal dance. So nature and evolution don't like to reinvent the wheel. So they figure, well, cortisol is an action hormone. So stress, which is fight or flight, which both require action, also will require cortisol. So cortisol think of stress as a super action. Now, when you turn on the cold shower, I'm talking like full on cold, and you're just like there and you got the whole like, that is the stress response. Yes, you got adrenaline, but you also got tons of cortisol flooding the system because that is your fight or flight. It's cold. This is uncomfortable. Let's get out of here. Now, stress happens in what we call the Hpa axis. The HPA stands for hypothalamus, to the pituitary, to the adrenal glands. Your hypothalamus detects the stimulus from your environment. In this case, we have cold water coming down on us. We need to get out. So it sends a signal to the pituitary gland. Pituitary, get people on this right away. The pituitary is like middle management, and they'll say like, I got it. And it will release a hormone, cortisol stimulating hormone, through the circulation to your adrenal glands, which just sit on top of your kidneys. Now, your adrenal glands secrete epinephrine, adrenaline, and cortisol, those three, all fight or flight, right? Action, action. These things flood your body, and you get all those symptoms of stress, right? Increased heartbeat, like freezing, the shortness of breath, all those things, right? Your blood sugar goes up, your blood pressure goes up. Now, what happens is that, yes, you're flooding your system with stress, 100%. And this is where hormesis comes in, because you turn off the water. If you were to stay in that water and it gets cold and cold and cold, we got, maybe the risk of frostbite. Mm-hmm. That's hormesis. So why is this beneficial? As soon as you turn off the cold water, your hypothalamus detects we've escaped. Tells the pituitary gland, you did a good job, turn it all off. And it turns off your cortisol system. Mm. This is crucial because your brain, now you're training your brain to be good at turning off the stress. Wow. So if you do take cold showers on a regular basis and your brain becomes better and better and better at turning off the stress, then you have less chronic stress, which is the stuff that you don't require action for, stuck in traffic, deadline, fear, stress, relationships, all this shit. You feel more and more and more at peace. So
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, I never thought of it from that angle, and it makes so much sense.
Wow. Love it.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. People come in to see me for meal plans. I send them out go take cold showers.
Oh wow!
It's
so
like
you're retraining your mind to understand how to, when the stress response happens, how to focus and how to go through it.
Exactly.
Wow, that's cold showers will reduce your stress in regular life. Who would have thought?
Yeah, they improve your sleep. They reduce your stress. I had like the person that got off of their antidepressants. They're an IT person in front of the computers all day, drinks coffee, energy drinks, stays up super, super late, comes into late, like the type.
Yeah.
Yeah, and cold showers changed their lives because just that, they felt a lot more. First, you guys take cold showers, you feel energetic. You feel like freaking...
You're charged.
You're charged.
Yeah.
And that's just because you escaped danger. Like you feel charged. Like if you just got away from an attack or from a lion, you'll be like, wow.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I remember going skydiving and just being like I was just so scared shitless, and I couldn't bring my legs were jelly. I couldn't jump out of the plane. But then the experience, and then the landing, and then like everyone around you becomes your best friend, and you're just like, this is so good. Like you're just on top of the world, man. And it's
that's
blowing my mind. That's maybe a different But that's the thing is like I thought. I always work with analogies because like I'm not a scientist. I don't really know what's going on. I'm just kind of getting this info, and I think it's like bicep curls, and it's like I'm getting stronger because the cold shower is tough. And then you put the weights down and you walk around with those big muscles. But the truth is, the putting down the stress is its own muscle in a way, and that's blowing my mind. I love thinking of it that way.
It's exactly the same thing. I love thinking of the mind as a muscle. So say you do bicep curls, right? You just day one, you hit the gym, you see a program, bicep curls. You're not going to pick up 80-pound weights the first day. You're going to do them. You're going to tear up your muscle.
Yeah.
You got to start small. Same thing with cold showers. If you've never done it in your life, you just go gung-ho and pull on in the middle of January and full on cold. That shit hurts.
Yeah.
I do it.
Hurts. Yeah.
But seriously, like I've been doing cold showers now every day for about 2 years. And now I'm full on walking out barefoot in shorts in the middle of winter.
Wow.
It's amazing. Like it sounds crazy, but you just build your system and your tolerance up to such a level. And it's like the guy now who can do 80-pound bicep curls, but he didn't start off that way. And it's just retraining your mind and retraining your ability to adapt, to be resilient. And a resilient body is also a resilient mind. So more you're resilient to stress.
Yeah, you know what? Ever since, because I haven't been very consistent in my cold showers, but there was moments where it'd be like a month straight. I would just be doing it, and then I'd take some time off. But I don't wear winter coats anymore, and that's just my body just understands what's cold and how I can breathe through it. And it's funny you mentioned that because, yeah, I drive around and stuff, but when I'm outside, I just have my either t-shirt or sweater on and I feel great. And it's before cold showers, I would go out and be like, oh, it's freezing. I need to cover up and tie it up. But it's really, that's probably more your mind actually versus what your body's feeling.
Yeah. And
For sure.
the more you do it, you say, okay, so I feel cold as well, but does the cold bother me? That's the most important question. Can I live with this cold? Yeah. Fantastic.
Nice.
And it's kind of hormesis. Like, we're not going for a 5-hour trek here, right? In a t-shirt. We're going from a car. So yeah, you can survive. Be uncomfortable.
You kind of need that permission from someone like Wim Hof, though, or you need the science to come out and start backing people up, because, like, it helps with the fear, almost the intellectualization. Like when I've been walking around barefoot in the snow also, and I mean, it hurts. Even if you're getting used to it, like it hurts, and I look down at my feet and I'm going, okay, is it turning blue or is it turning red? That's like I'm actually just checking, because I don't trust my brain anymore, because my body's saying get the fuck out. And like it gets to the point where, like, I notice it in people. Like my mom will be like, oh, put a coat on, it's cold out. I'm like, Mom, I walk around barefoot. Like, what are you saying? Like, you can't let go of these paradigms, and that's where analogies kind of fall apart. Like, we were talking about gut bacteria before. We treat it like you're talking about it like a forest, sort of, and like, it's really like the system, like you're saying, the nervous system gets involved, and hormones and things pass through the blood, and it talks to the brain. We think of things so simply, and most people just kind of have to experiment. And when it comes to something like diet, it can really trip you up, because you think you're progressing a certain way, but you're actually like promoting a certain bacteria that's like, like you cut the sugar out and it starts multiplying because it feels like it's dying. And then you break because you get the cravings start getting more, like, stronger and stronger, and you have to kind of go over this hump. Like, it's so complicated. It's like, it's really complicated. It's analogies. Do you use analogies a lot when you're teaching? Like, do you just try to speak direct?
I like to use analogies, but the thing is, with analogies can be hijacked. Right? So they're not.
That's my point. Yeah, exactly.
There's no perfect analogy, because if we continue with the forest, and then you're thinking like, well, a biodiverse forest is great, which is good. We want diversity in our gut.
Overgrowth. Yeah, exactly.
But if you say are taking antibiotics, or you're eating a lot of sugar, let's take sugar for example. There's something called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth that happen at the distal part of your gut. So this is basically bacteria are just growing like mad around there because you're taking in sugar, and those pathogenic bacteria are loving the sugar. So they will mass like in clumps to get at that sugar. So what you have here is a dysfunctional distribution of gut. So here you have like a massive population, a metropolis of guts, and then you have like a rural area of bacteria, but that's not normal. So then what happens is that this bacteria is causing an imbalance, and this imbalance is going to cause symptoms like heartburn, IBS, ulcerative colitis down the road. It's very, very hard to diagnose. But now we know that we can actually find different species of bacteria that are more associated with obesity, and those that are more associated with being normal weight. And I wrote a paper once for AskMen.com about fecal transplants, because that stuff fascinated me. By simply taking the bacteria from a stool sample of a skinny person and introducing them into an obese person, this will change the environment, the gut bacteria environment, and that person will start to lose weight.
Whoa.
That's mind blowing. That is mind blowing.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that's crazy.
I was thinking like, I gotta get into this business, man. I'm gonna make a business with stool banks instead of blood banks. It's like, hey, you want to lose weight? Take this shit pill.
Take this shit pill. Yeah, exactly. No, but I'm just as fascinated as you are, because I've heard of people like, I mean, it's almost like too simple. Obviously, it's very complicated. We just kind of talked about how it can get really complicated, individual as well. But it's like I didn't know about that. Like skinny person to fat person gets skinnier. But they also talk about let's say a happier person, put it into a depressed person, they get happier. Like, the gut is just this kind of nexus, like this chakra for so much going on in your body. And you can literally like scrape some bacteria, like this snapshot of the environment, like of the person's gut, like through their shit, through their fecal.
It's like a fingerprint. I can actually identify you by your shit.
Wow.
That's hilarious. I can't imagine all the applications. I can't like, it seems like endless.
Well, we know we're just beginning. The research is really fascinating. We're beginning to look at gut bacteria, and like this is what I was talking about before with the fermented foods. We all thought that eating more fermented foods is amazing, and I still promote fermented foods, right? Because sauerkraut and kimchi, yes, and yogurt, yes, they're all associated with positive health outcomes. But maybe the outcomes is not due to reseeding your gut bacteria. Maybe these outcomes are due to something else. And I have to be comfortable saying that we don't know what that is, but it's complex. You take a complex life form like food, and you put it into a complex life form like us. There's a whole bunch of interactions that we cannot map out. So you have to look at these endpoints. What are the health benefits? Like, and I hate to say it again, this is why I'm a little bit on the fence about nutrition research. These endpoints are not only associated with your diet, but they're also associated with so many other things that are going on in your life.
That's my beef with a lot of these studies, is that it's not taking into account lifestyle habits, whether they're smokers, or their high stress environment, or their lack of sleep, dehydrated. Like there's so many factors that, like you said, will affect your cortisol levels and all sorts of things. It's really complex when you look at nutrition. And I love your approach, because you're taking everything into account,
you have to.
I think the future's going in this holistic mentality.
I hope so. But I'm telling you, like, I'm in the Department of Nutrition, and there's a lot of funding to try to tease out what's going on, but it's all going towards the wrong thing. Now, I presented this. I took a few minutes in my class to throw a bomb, and this is so controversial. And all the students are thinking, like, why am I even in nutrition? It's just a useless thing. First, I am reluctant to even call nutrition a science, because in all scientific fields, you have base rules, right? Chemistry, physics, biology have a basic rule. And then when you're going to do experiments, you're going to do an experimental protocol and compare it to the base. The problem in nutrition is that there's no such thing as the perfect human diet. We don't know what the baseline is. So with no baseline, what we can do is only compare. But if we're going to compare, we've got to really be careful what we're comparing to. Now, I will say right now, and I know anybody who's like a hardcore nutrition fan is going to hate me for this, but it's true. The research shows that epidemiological sciences, like prospective studies, is pseudoscience. So a prospective study is, I give you a questionnaire and I ask you what you ate today, yesterday, on the weekend, whatever. I come back next year and I give you the questionnaire again. I give you the next year, or every 5 years, whatever like that. And then in 10, 15, 20 years from now, you die of cancer or you die of heart disease. And I'm going to look back at what you've been eating for the last 20 years. I'm going to make an association with that.
Yeah.
Well, we can already see tons of problems with this, right? But the major problem is dietary recall. We never, and this has been shown time and time again, that if I was to give you a food frequency questionnaire or a dietary recall questionnaire, you're going to lie, because what you're going to put down is not what you actually ate, but what you usually eat, or what you're,
what you want to portray, sort of.
Exactly. Like
you might skip out the midnight snacks.
Or you might, it's like, hey, what'd you eat yesterday? And you're like, oh shit, I ate McDonald's yesterday, but it's not what I usually eat, so I'm not going to put that down, because the researchers, rightly so, will think that you're eating McDonald's every day, and that's not true.
That's so funny. There's like hey, I want you to be mindful. I think your microphone is like hitting your shirt, and it creates like a swooshing
sorry, that's
sound.
for you guys.
I just realized. I was wondering what that sound was. It's really funny because, like, I don't know, what's that big one? The China study or something like that?
Yeah,
the China study. A famous one. Yeah. So what you're saying is like that expression that we use where it's like, you know, I don't remember what I ate a week ago.
Yeah.
That's literally what those entire studies are based on, let alone all the deeper science of like, what is your gut bacteria at the time? What is your genetic and epigenetic situation? And what is your, like, that's enough already. I don't need to list more. Like,
Not only
there's
do we
so
need-
much convolution happening.
Not only that, but if you follow, like, honestly, were you following carnivore and keto for the last 5 years? No,
No.
no,
Keto, maybe.
maybe.
No, well, like,
Not
you mean,
even
was
5
I
years.
following it? Like, was I eating it that way?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
hell no.
what you're eating now,
Hell no.
was it the same way that you were eating it 3-4 years ago?
It's always
Is it going to be
changing.
the same way that we're eating 3-4 years from now?
No.
And that's because we're human. We're not freaking animals in the wild where we only have access to one or two food things. We're complex emotional beings, and the science has a really, really hard time with that. So
That's
yeah,
fair.
nutritional research, the golden standard are randomized controlled trials, but that's unethical, right? I can't have a randomized controlled trial for 20 years and keep you in a cage and figure out what happens.
So it's just a lot of hard science that you have to throw at this thing that is so ambiguous. Like, there's no way to track this properly. It's so funny because you're an expert in this field, so you're the one saying, like, I'm saying from the inside out, this doesn't make any fucking sense.
My field sucks. My field sucks.
Yeah, but in a way, I mean, science is like this. You're curious and it's mysterious and you're trying to get answers. So your job is set for life if you think of it in a positive way.
Yeah, no, it's true. And because nutrition is so ambiguous, that's why I use an evolutionary approach. Because for me, yes, you have everyone from vegan to carnivore. Like, what's the most ideal diet for humans? And I'm thinking, like, well, let's look at it evolution. And so I think it's important for all nutritionists or any health coaches to really set themselves like, all right, well, this is my framework. And I chose a good one because I believe in evolution. Most of my clients believe in evolution, and it makes sense. So yes, carnivore and keto have evolutionary templates in the past. It makes sense, whereas veganism does not.
That's interesting. I never thought of it that way. So you're like, you realize that you can't kind of slap this together with traditional science, so you lean into the fallacy and then kind of come at it sideways and try to just be logical about it. So it's like, I guess we'll just rely on, it's still a kind of rainbow fits all thing, but you're starting at least from this point of view where it's like, well, we're humans, we evolved on this planet, and you know, the sun and all the whole, like you said, you know, like exercise
and seasons. Well, okay, so this is where the ancestral health, or the ancestors come in. A lot of nutrition research doesn't look at these divergent evolutionary patterns. Now, say we're Nordic, we're white-skinned, we're from Nordic ancestry. So all Nordic climates from the South and the North Poles have very distinct seasons. Winter and summer are like two different things. Now, if we're living off the wild, we're hunting and fishing. During the winter, we only have one choice: hunting and fishing. There's no vegetables, there's no fruits, there's no carbohydrates. So we absolutely, now human beings require a lot of energy to power our brain. So we absolutely need to figure out what to do in case there's no carbs. And that happened every year. And then sometimes during the ice ages, it happened for years, which is basically keto or carnivore. It's the ice age diet, if you want to think of it that way.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Now we had to develop these systems. Now the human being, Homo sapiens, are the only mammal in the world that is so efficient at getting into ketosis. Bears don't even get into heavy ketosis like Homo sapiens, and they hibernate every winter. But Homo sapiens requires a good supply of glucose and or ketones to supply this very energy demanding organ. And so nature says, well, if we're going to survive ice ages and winters, we have to come around with a solution. So we're going to make the human species very good at falling into ketosis in the absence of carbohydrates. So if it was not for that ability, we wouldn't be here. So yes, ketosis is a natural human evolutionary development.
That's interesting. But I've always wondered, because I've experimented with some diets for sure. And I've noticed, especially when I tried ketogenic diets, obviously I failed miserably from day one, but like I kind of I didn't have like the piss sticks or anything. Like I didn't know if I was even in ketosis, but it was in itself a stressful experience on my body, not just emotionally, but I mean, like I felt, like if you're in a kind of starvation for a long period of time, like I felt stressed out. I felt my sleep got disrupted. Like it itself became a kind of like damaging thing, if you will. I don't know.
What were you eating before?
Oh, garbage.
See?
Garbage, just bread and sugar, and I have a sweet tooth, man. I got 30 sweet teeth. I'm screwed. Like
I could tell you what to do step by step for that, but that's normal.
Lay it
They
on
call it the keto flu. They call that like you're gonna full on. I had a client puke while they were down.
I was having withdrawal symptoms. I was shaking and shivering. You know, for 3 days, I was like, I had to kind of take some days off and just relax because I was literally, my teeth were trembling at some points, you know?
Wow.
And I was just thinking about sugar the whole time. And
I didn't know it was that bad, man.
Yeah, I know.
It's amazing how it hijacks your brain. Like I remember I did like paleo. I don't know if that's like a 4-letter word for you guys, but like I did a kind of paleo like a few years ago, and I was doing fine. It was a great diet. I'm kind of this like Mediterranean, like vegetable, meat, fish. Like as soon as I cut out bread, I feel good. So I was doing this for a good 6 months, and it was like easy because I was living on my own and I just controlled what I ate. Then I just followed my friend one day to a Tim Hortons, and it's like a sex addict walked into a
porn shop.
Exactly. It was like a heroin addict walked into a pharmacy. Like my eyes popped the fuck out of my head, and I was like, it became like the feelings instantly became thoughts. Like I just knew in this deep down way that I have to eat that. And I was like, dude, I gotta get out of here. And he's like, what's wrong? I was like, I got no time to explain.
Yeah.
It was visceral. It was so real. It was very educational.
You know what? You're not the only one. I mean, not only like we're having an obesity epidemic and carb addiction and sugar addiction, but all animals. If you give them access to sugar, they will totally binge. And again, from an evolutionary standpoint, that makes complete sense. Here's a thought experiment. We're out camping, all right, we're cavemen. What's the sweetest thing that you can find naturally growing in nature?
Berries.
Fruit. Yeah, exactly. Now, fruit is low fat. What's the fattiest thing that you can find in nature?
Nuts.
That's a good point. Meat. Well, it's usually meat.
Yeah.
Animals, right?
Yeah.
So animals, now we eat animals and plants. Now animals are low carb, naturally, high protein, high fat. And plants are high carb, low protein, low fat. So we love carbs, but carbs, remember going back to the fact that we're seasonal, right? Now, we have a drive. Again, these are white skin. I can talk about equatorial ancestry as well, which is a little bit different because the seasons are more wet, dry, but there's still that evolutionary drive. But equatorial ancestry, that's kind of fascinating because you have a short growing season of carbohydrates when fruit and vegetables grow out in the wood. So you have a drive to consume as many carbohydrates as you can in order to put a nice fat layer, safety layer, in order to increase your chances of survival for the coming winter. So the human body and the human brain was designed to seek out carbs, and that's dopamine. That's that neurotransmitter dopamine, that seek and reward. And you will go through any culture, and there's some cultures in, I think, Malaysia, that they will climb a sheer wall of a cliff to get to a beehive just to get the honey. And they're called bee trees. I don't know, there was a National Geographic documentary years and years ago, and it's like a riskiest thing. And they take their most fit and agile people because the death rate is so high. But damn it, it's worth it just to get to that honey. So that's what you were doing in Tim Hortons. You're about to risk your life, man. It's so worth it. But what is that drive, that dopamine, that you're willing to do that in order to just get that sugar high?
Yes.
In this world where we're surrounded by sugar every day of the year. It doesn't matter if it's winter or spring. It's completely out of context with our evolutionary purpose of
There's a reward button everywhere you look. You can get a reward.
every time, that dopamine.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that I've been introducing to my clients. Take a dopamine fast. Start meditating. Get away from social media, phone notifications, emails, Netflix, porn, Tinder, anything that's kind of addictive. And just go like, all you can do is read, walk outside, meditate, exercise, and that's it. Try that.
And that's having the same effect as like what we spoke about with the cold showers and how it's slowly reprogramming your mind to understand like where the focus should be, and you're not kind of a victim to your impulses and your dopamine and your constant need for that pleasure button, lack of better terms, you know?
It's addictive.
The sugar, salt, fat of life, sort of.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. And these addiction, it's all the same pathway. Now, dopamine has a few pathways in the brain, but one pathway, and there's a big genetic component of it. There's a pathway that goes, it's called the Mesolimbic Pathway. It goes through your emotional centers of your brain, right? Limbic. And then there's a mesocortical pathway, which is more the frontal cortex, which is rationality. So many of us have addictions, right? Maybe it may be sugar for you, maybe gambling, maybe drugs, maybe alcohol. But what happens is that you have such a strong emotional pathway that it doesn't matter how logical you are, you have zero willpower or close to zero willpower when that stimulus is there, when you walk into that Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
But I don't know, thank God you walked out, because walking out is actually the prefrontal cortex. Now, even psychologists will call it the wild monkey, the monkey brain, and the human brain. So say you're on a carnivore or keto diet or a low carb diet, you just want to lose weight and you just want to avoid junk. But you have that wild monkey. And if you ever give him a banana, the wild monkey is not going to think, says, yes, please, boom, boom. And all these rationalizations will come in like, don't worry about it. Tomorrow I'll start it up again. This is a cheat meal. I had a hard day. I'm tired. I know it. We're all king of excuses. I know it.
Yeah.
But the human cortex, the mesocortical pathway, that's that delayed gratification. That's that monkey that says like, I know you want the banana, but what's more important to you is the long-term goal, whatever that is. So when I tell my clients, like, they're always on their screens, right? They're always like, they the first thing they get up, they check their notices, their notifications. Yeah, thank you. Email, social media. And the last thing they do before going to bed is they're scrolling through their social media feed. That's horrible. You're a constant, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, you're on constant stimulation mode. Back in the days, I used to do the dishes and household chores without having the need to watch a YouTube video at the same time for fear of being bored. But now we're all afraid of being bored. So you have to really reduce all like these stimulations as much as possible, which is why I have a rule for a lot of my clients: no screen time 30 minutes after waking up or before going to bed. So what do? You meditate, you read, you go for a walk, you do yoga. I don't care. It's just
be bored.
Be bored. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like they say, like, I can't read. Like my attention span is all over. That's the point. I can't meditate. Like that's the point. Like
it's a practice.
Exactly. Like I've done crazy hard stuff, like the cold showers. I'd even jumped in the middle of the St. Lawrence in the middle of winter. I fasted for 7 days. I quit coffee recently. That shit was hard, but it was nowhere near as hard as taking up meditation, because that mind, that's a tough cookie to crack.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But once you get used to quietness, stillness, and more like an introspection, like taking the time out to say, like, instead of being stimulated by my outside environment 16 hours while you're awake, take the time to wake up and like take an assessment. All right, what are my goals for today? What are my intentions? How am I going to react to stuff that's going to go bad today? For example, like, am I going to come out positive, negative? All like these things that set your mind with intention and optimism and joy and happiness. These are profound.
Yeah, you become the horse in front of the carriage instead of just taking the ride. It's like
Well
Yeah.
said.
The way I see it is you're
I see.
strengthening. We use the mind as a muscle. We're strengthening the frontal cortex to be the main thinker and not
Yeah.
in victim to the monkey brain.
But
Yeah.
yes, and the important thing is, if you're going to address one thing first, it has to be the monkey brain first. An elimination diet, if you will. That's
Okay.
why elimination diets work. Because I don't care how much broccoli or water or stuff you eat is just so good. It's not. You're not going to get any results if you're not cutting out the fast food, the sugar, and the salt. Eliminate first. So eliminate, or at least limit, your exposure to these dopamine hits. One. And then you'll find like meditation works. You're able to focus on reading, focus on meditation. It's
Mm.
yeah, and
It's almost like you. Oh, sorry.
no, sorry, but the thing is, it's related to sugar as well. So if you have a sugar craving, look at your entire lifestyle. Are you looking at a lot of? Are you looking at a lot of screens? Are you looking at a lot of TV? Because you are feeding that wild monkey, and that wild
Yes.
monkey wants sugar, because sugar is part of the reward system.
It wants the instant gratification everywhere in your entire life.
Exactly.
Ah,
You know, I
that
noticed because
that's
now
it.
I'm on carnivore way more. I'm on the carnivore, but I notice I want to train more. I want to wake up earlier. I have a sauna now. I want to go in the sauna. I want to do things. Yeah, I ordered on Amazon. It's like a tent. It's like a steam sauna. It's great. Everyone listening, if you have a little bit of money, it's like $240. Get a sauna. It's legit.
Oh, that's affordable. That's good.
Yeah, it's really good. And so, but I noticed that now that I'm cleaning up my diet and everything, it's just my lifestyle's kind of manifesting into that mindset too. And I'm noticing I don't want to be distracted. I don't want to watch those Netflix series. I want to go outside. I want to do things and move and even meditate is actually something I'm incorporating more now. So it's crazy how it all just tumbles together once you start paying attention to it.
You went in from a good side. You went in from the nutrition side. You got over that uncomfortable, that trial by fire, I call it.
Yeah.
And then you got like the whole like the gates of heaven open up. But a lot of people, just that, a lot of my clients who are real hardcore carb addicts or sugar addicts, going through those trial by fire, they don't last, right? And trial by fire lasts a minimum, in my opinion, 3 weeks, because 3 weeks is where you usually hit a plateau. And that's where you're motivated at the beginning, and then you hit you're checking out the scale. And I'm not a big fan of checking out your scale all the time, but 3 weeks is usually where you hit a plateau, and that's completely natural. But if you want to lose weight, that's extremely discouraging.
Yeah.
And so they say, "Fuck this! I'm going to go. It's not working anymore." And so you stuck to it.
I was just gonna say, I feel like we're hitting on something without really saying it, but like people are really hard on themselves, and like the that forward brain, that kind of human brain, that's just another animal that we have to worry about. Like it's not a lot of people, myself included. I might just be projecting here, but like there's just this there's this mentality that you have to like strong arm the situation and regain control of your life, and every moment is a decision, and when you fail, when you take the wrong decision, you failed. But the truth is, what we're talking about is, don't trial by fire, don't cold turkey and think that you're just gonna like force your life into this new shape. It's a practice, like I said earlier. Like you do things in these small habits, and it's the sugar, salt, fat. You know, there's an evolutionary motivation, but there's an evolutionary motivation in exercise also, and in meditation, and in community, and all these other things. It's just habit. It's just a little thing every day. Whereas we're stressing out because we're like, no, I have to be this thing. It's like, no, there's the human is an animal that you have to train, and the monkey is an animal that you have to train. It's not you being this thing all the time. It's just relax and do some tiny things every day. And I just wanted to say that because it's something I'm learning now. I'm 32 and I'm fucking finally figuring it out. And I just want to throw that out there.
You're lucky. Some people don't
Anybody
figure it out in their entire lives. They don't figure it out. That's really good. That's really good. But you're 100% right.
Yeah.
We're very hard on ourselves. And like it worked for you because you went in cold turkey. And here's the thing. I like cold turkey. I like it because it's kind of like an alcoholic who has to give up, right? And things with carbs. The problem is that we're surrounded by carbs. Carbs are at family gatherings and special occasions. Yeah. So then you're like a little bit of a social outcast if you don't partake in a birthday cake, for example. But that's not the point, right? The point is not to be 100% strict. The point is to understand and to be in control. So this is where the power of self-discipline is. Self-discipline is doing something that you really don't feel like doing. So if you want to have cake, yes, have cake, but do you have the self-discipline in order to not binge or like completely wreck your diet?
Yeah.
And it's to get to that point. So how do you become self-disciplined? Self-discipline is a muscle, just like everything else that we've been talking about.
Yes.
And that's the thing with consistency, because we all know, right? If you're going to stick to something, you got to stick to it. You can't just be yo-yoing and try this out and not do it and stuff like that. And consistency is habit, and habits are really, really, really hard to take up.
Yeah.
Right? To bring up. And so you need to have that self-discipline. But if you're always giving in to that monkey brain, that's the opposite of self-discipline. That's procrastination. That's instant gratification.
Which is crazy because those are also muscles, and if you really look at it objectively, you can actually, it takes equal effort to use either muscle. Just we're so strong in those muscles,
Because one's way too pleasurable.
Yeah, it hits the right buttons.
I wanted to ask you, because you were mentioning plateaus right before, how does someone deal with a plateau, and how do they work through a plateau? Is there something they need to change in their diet or in their habits, or they just got to muscle through that moment?
They can muscle through it. It really depends on if you're a man, a woman, really overweight, not that overweight, stress level, sleep. There's so many things that's causing a plateau. But a plateau is usually caused by this hormone leptin. Now, leptin is basically like a inventory manager. While you're asleep, every single fat cell will release leptin. Leptin goes to your brain, and your brain takes inventory of how many fat cells. The more fat cells you have, the more leptin you have.
Okay.
Now, if you're starting to lose a lot of fat fast because you're on a keto or carnivore diet, there's less and less leptin going to your brain. And your brain says like, okay, hold on now, wait. And it takes about 3 weeks in order for the brain to say, we got to put a stop on this, because at the rate we're going here, because fat is a survival tissue, right? Mm-hmm. Fat has, it's very important. It's your RRSP. It's your long-term savings plan. Yeah. So if you're dipping into your RRSP all the time, your brain, just like your bank, is going to say like, whoa, we got to figure out what's going on here. So your metabolism changes and leptin production changes. And this is why most people quit at that point. Leptin is the reason why you're sitting on your couch eating chip 5 days after starting your new training plan, for example. It's leptin putting on the brakes. So how do you bust through that? You can continue with that, but you have to tell your brain, you have to convince your brain that everything's good. So how do you convince your brain that everything's good? Sleep. Sleep is probably the most important thing to convince your brain that we're sleeping in a safe, tranquil environment. But sleep deprivation right now is an all-time high. So we have our cortisol. So I want to get back to the question of plateau, because I do have like 3 awesome tricks to go. But first, you have to understand that's where sleep is here. Now, sleep is when we're at our most vulnerable, right? We can be attacked. We can be stabbed. Now, we have a false sense of security, because back before houses and stuff, we used to sleep as a group. And if you look at most mammals, there's always groups of people sleeping because of the security. Yeah. And even now, there's more and more research that shows that kids with ADHD and attention deficit disorders, weighted blankets help. And that weighted blanket kind of emulates the feeling of being close to someone. So the security in numbers, right? But we're sleeping in our beds, secure in the fact that we're locked in our houses and no one's going to come in, and no lion or no burglars coming in. So we feel okay, safe. But what's happening is that we're not consistent with our sleeping patterns. We're not going to bed at the same time. We're ignoring our environmental cues of the sunset and the sunrise, because artificial light will mess up those cues.
Circadian rhythm.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you have an imbalance in circadian rhythm, you have an imbalance in your number of sleep cycles, your melatonin is not going to be excreted optimally, because melatonin does not rise in the presence of light. The absolute blue light specifically.
Yeah.
But if there's blue light, your melatonin is not going to rise as it should. And blue light isn't, screens.
It's TV screens, the phones,
exactly.
everything.
Exactly. So now you have the whole fight or flight thing going on, but low level, because it's the fight or flight basically saying, like, we're not sleeping well. What's going on? Maybe we should sleep somewhere else where it's safer, but we're not. We're ignoring that. So our cortisol levels go up and up and up. If your cortisol is going up and up, forget about busting through that plateau. That cortisol is meant for action. And for action, you need energy. And for energy, you need to store energy as well. A good analogy I like to use is, say, for example, we're all here safely in our houses, but all of a sudden a war breaks out outside. You gotta get out of there. You gotta bug out. So you grab all the essential things. Well, what I think is essential: food, water, and medicine, and weapons. Your body does the exact same thing. It hangs on to food with body weight. It hangs on to water with water retention. And the weapons and medicine is inflammation, which is good and bad depending on how it is. And you're going to put this in a backpack, and you're going to keep going and keep going until you find a place to stop. But if you come across more food, more water, you're going to put it in your backpack. And that's what obesity is. And that's what water retention and bloating and inflammation goes up too. So the longer you go without good quality, natural, restorative sleep, the more stressed you're going to become. And it's going to be really harder to get through that plateau. So plateau tip number 1, I finally got around to it. Get more sleep.
More sleep.
Nutritionally, we can play with carbohydrates a lot. If you're a woman, more carbs is actually more beneficial to bust through a plateau. Okay. If you're a male, I find that going 0 carbs, like full-on carnivore or keto or something like that, can actually make you bust through a plateau as well. There's a lot of tricks as well, like certain supplements can help you bust through a plateau. Certain exercises can help you bust through a plateau. But my number one trick is look at your sleep, look at your stress levels first.
It's amazing how it ties in that way. And like you think of like your quality of sleep, but you don't think about it like informing your body, informing your mind that way to let you know that you're safe, to let you know that like this is affecting your cortisol, this is affecting your whole day. That, again, we're going into that holistic idea, and that like it's not about consciousness and will, it's about like maintaining, it's about environment, sort of like we're getting ahead of the problem by being conscious of like our aquarium, sort of, you know, like our
Well, that's it. And all this is evolutionary. Look at Homo sapiens. We never went to the gym, ever. No. Your grandmothers never went to the gym. And obesity wasn't a problem out there. We're all super healthy. What's going on? Well, we just did low intensity, steady state exercises, walking. We carried stuff. We did chores. We were outside way more often. We ate what was seasonally available. We ate meat. We ate plants. I remember when I was a kid, my grandmother says like, well, strawberries are not in season now, but that's not the case anymore. You want strawberries, you can get them anytime because they're imported from
all year round.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the modern world where we're living right now is out of balance with the way we were designed. And so my whole raison d'etre, my whole goal is to reintroduce or to biohack these evolutionary stimuli in our modern world in order to live by our genetic code.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
It's honestly the best blueprint we have to living a proper life, you know.
I think so, yeah.
Because we're so out of balance of the way nature works. And a guest we had on before you, Nick Gabriel, he was Nick Gregoriadis, he was talking about even work. It's not even going by the seasons. We have the same job, same hours the whole year, and then you take a 2-week vacation or a 1-week vacation, then you go right back to it. But there's seasons of harvest, there's seasons of hibernation, but we're not following any of those natural laws that everything functions on.
I completely agree. I really think that human beings would be so much more productive with only 3 hours of deep focused work. We can accomplish as much as a 9 to 5 job.
That's what he was talking about.
Really?
Yeah.
I gotta listen to that podcast.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I complain about I'm like an idealist, so I look at society and I just complain. But
which is addictive, by the way.
I guess it has its place, I suppose, you know. But I realize, I talked about it today also, like the Christmas break and the summer break, they've only ever ruined my academic progress, you know. And the 8-hour day, like on the 6th hour, I want to shoot myself in the head. You know, if I was working 6-hour days, I'd work 7 days a week, no problem. Maybe not there, but maybe I'd take a week off every month. Maybe I'd take a week off every 3 months. Like, I'm just sure I'd be more productive. But it's this chronic, like, reach beyond your energy means, and it's just expected. And I talk to so many friends who are like, oh yeah, I got to put in some overtime. Like, it's not mandatory, but they just expect it. So I can't see you next Saturday because I have to work. It's like, dude, you're doing 40 hours a week. That's already too much.
Yeah.
But it's just normalized. And, you know, like another guest we had recently, Steve Maxwell, he said something. He said, most of us probably haven't ever even felt real hunger. Like, you were talking about the you know, the availability of sugar and carbs and stuff. Like when I walked into that Tim Hortons and I freaked out, it's because it was a good thing. It's like, evolutionarily, my body is telling my brain, like, if you want that, you need that. Climb the fucking hill, get the fucking honey, like, yeah, you know. And
except the honey is just an exchange of cash, and then you get it, no problem, no effort.
Dude, I was gonna break the glass. Fuck money, bro. I was gonna reach through the glass like it was fucking not there, and just start eating like a croissant or like a chocolatine or something. It was so.
Yeah.
I felt like my lid blew off, and that's maybe the only reason that I resisted it, because it was so intense that I was like, oh, this is wrong. Anyway, that's another story.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
When you're talking about nutrition with seasonality, so right now I'm doing carnivore. Is that something, as the seasons change and there's new foods available in our region, is that where you start to modify your diet to what the seasons are dictating?
Yeah, I'll be the first one to say that there's no research on seasonal eating, right?
Okay.
But I do think that, here's the thing. If we're going to go carnivore keto during the winter months, which just makes sense evolutionary, comfort, right? Have you guys heard of the Danish term called hygge? Hygge is the art of comfort. Because in Denmark and Scandinavia, cold winter months are associated with hot chocolate, warm blankets, wool socks, cookies, home-baked goods, comfort, right? We don't want discomfort. So this is why I associate the carnivore diet with people who are welcoming discomfort in order for betterment, self-improvement. In which case, there's no rule to say you can't go keto all year. There's some people that love it.
Yeah.
I personally don't think it should be a forever thing. I think this should be more cyclical. But there's no rule against it. And if you love keto or carnivore and you're not suffering from any kind of imbalance or metabolic disorder, go for it. You know,
Nice.
It's fine. And I'll say the same thing with veganism as well. But that's usually not the case. Usually without proper supplementation, I'll have to say.
Yeah.
But there's an evolutionary faux pas right there. So yeah, I don't say eat according to season, simply because I'm not sure. A lot of people come to see for me to do keto during the summer because they want to get a bikini body. But I'd be like, oh, but keto is more of a winter diet. No.
Yeah.
Do it
That's a
whenever
good point.
you can. Yeah. And summer's tough, right? Because you got beer on the patios and ice cream and stuff. It's tough. So if you're going to start keto in the summer, be prepared.
It's a tough order.
Exactly. You're going to be that guy.
Yeah. Oh, my friends hate me.
Yeah.
You got to be that guy. That's so
Yeah,
perfect that you said that.
They get so annoyed with me. I'm like, I can't eat there, blah, blah, blah. It's not keto, or I'll just order like a burger with no bun. I'll just eat the burger.
I have so many people who think I'm that guy now, even when I'm not. Like, just because I'm into yoga or something, they're like, do you eat meat? You don't eat meat, right? Like, I can make a vegetarian. I'm like, I eat meat. Who said I don't eat meat? Like, they're just imposing it on me now. And it's like, bro. But I don't know how good we are on time. I don't want to overstep, but I just like I definitely want to, before we wrap up, just start firing popular diets at you and then have you just be like, no, yes, no. Like, I know it's like an oversimplification.
Yeah, I might be like, depends.
That's what I think is gonna happen. Yeah.
Knowing a little bit too much on the subject. Like,
but I love nuance. Honestly, I love nuance. I don't know, like, obviously keto, like paleo's kind of going into keto if it's like more scientific. So I don't know, like paleo, the word I think got more flack than anything. And then now the carnivore diet's very popular. And you talked about dopamine fasts, which is not necessarily a diet, but it's bubbling up to the surface. It's interesting because it's like we have all this technology and stuff, and it's in the culture now. It's becoming, I see it all over YouTube, and it's like this is what our kids are growing up with. It's like
great.
we just have to, yeah, I know, it makes me really happy. But I don't know, like, do you have any huge like do's and don'ts maybe, instead of me just like throwing like buzzwords at you? Like a lot of people say that peanut butter is like the worst thing you can eat, like something random like that. Like,
yeah, I don't know, right? I love peanut butter.
I love that. I know, but I love that you're honest. You're an expert in the field, and you're getting to that bleeding edge, and you're saying we have no fucking clue.
Ah, damn it! No, I love peanut butter, but yeah, if you look, it has lectins, and it comes from a legume, and it has vegetable oils. Yet all these things are not great for you, right? Am I a guy who's about, hey, everything in moderation? No, I'm not. I'm a guy like some people absolutely need to be super, super strict. And moderation is just a freaking excuse to eat everything a little bit here, a little bit there.
Amen. Yeah.
You know, but like say things like gluten containing wheats, for example, I'll be like, nah, don't have it. Zero. It has zero benefits for you. It messes up your gut, and we're eating a lot too much of it. Once in a while, is that okay? Sure. Once in a while, you know, just understand like you're not doing any good, but it tastes so good. Like, I get it. Yeah. It's so freaking frustrating. I'm frustrated. I'm a guy who's prone to be obese. I'm a guy who has a sweet tooth, who has a carb addiction. I could devour boxes of cookies and tubs of Haagen-Dazs, you know, and I know I'm not the only one, right?
Oh, I'm that way too.
Yeah. So how the hell do you stick to anything if you can devour something that's inhumane? And I'm in freaking nutrition, and I coach people, but that's the way I do it. I relate. I know how you're feeling. I've done that shit too. So how do we get around to it? Oh boy, step number 1. Let's start with how you wake up. What do you do? And that's how the journey begins.
Amen. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, I have a method. I want to see if you think it's decent, or if, I don't know, just get your input on it. Because I had this addiction is real, and I don't think I'll ever get over it fully for carbs and junk food. So what I've done is I do carnivore 6 out of the 7 days a week. And then, so I do it 5. So, okay, I do it 5 days a week. So the whole weekday. Saturday, I do a full cheat day. I just go mayhem. Whatever I want to eat, I get sick. I lie on the floor afterwards, and I'm just trying to huff and puff. And then, I'm not even kidding. I've spent like $100 on Saturdays just on anything I want. Yeah, it's craziness.
Mr. Puffs, Krispy Kreme,
yeah, whatever.
McDonald's.
Like, so I'll go super ham on Saturday, and then Sunday I'll fast the whole day, and then Monday right back on carnivore. And that's a method that's working for me, but I don't know if that's fucking up my gut biome, or if it's messing up the whole system, or it's not doing that much damage. I don't know.
Hormesis?
Yeah. Well, to get into real detail, like if you were my client, like we talk an hour to figure out like what your lifestyle is, sleeping patterns, stress patterns, and all this, because what you're practicing here is called cyclical carnivorism, right? Whereas you break your diet in order to carb up, but you're not carbing up intelligently because it's a dirty refeed, right? So here's what I recommend. Stop doing that. Full 100%, 7 days out of the week carnivore for 1 month, 30-day challenge, okay? And now you're going to find out that binge is not going to be a binge because it's actually, you have zero
desire,
zero craving for it. You actually, and yeah, if you want to carb up, you're going to carb up on starchy vegetables like potatoes, sweet potatoes, white rice if you want, or squash or yam, or plantain. Sure.
No?
Sure. So that's what I recommend. Go for a 30-day carnivore challenge. And just like keto, like listen, I love peanut butter chocolate ice cream. That to me is just like heaven on earth. You agree?
I'm gonna eat some junk food after this. Like this is having the reverse effect.
So when I was successfully on keto, and I never felt this good in my life, but getting into that, that takes a while, right? You got to have all your ducks in a row. How's your sleep? How's your stress levels? Which is why during the quarantine, people's stress levels are a little high, which is maybe not a great idea to start anything radical right now.
Mhm.
Just do damage control, and then once it's over and things are getting back, all right, do something that you can survive that trial by fire. But when I was keto for a good 6-7 months, and I thought, you know what, I think I'm going to cheat with a peanut butter chocolate ice cream at Dairy Queen. And I was just standing in line, and I thought, I really have zero desire for this. And just next, I'm coming closer and closer, and I finally it's about to be me, and I said like, no, I think I'm actually going to be. And I thought like, who am I? What have I become? I've never said no to ice cream, and that's when I had this epiphany that I'm biologically, hormonally a completely different person. I strive to get back to that state, but as I said before,
It's tough.
you gotta have all your ducks in a row.
Wow.
It's interesting. It's like an echo. You're like you just identify with it. It's your favorite food, you know? Like I used to eat Nutella like out of the fucking jar, man, and I haven't had it in years. It's a part of you. It's like just a word or like a thought, and you're like you're literally in line, and you back out. You're like, I don't want this. What am I doing here?
I'm not that guy, right?
That guy.
I'm not that guy who takes it in exactly when you tell him the spoon. And I've been there, and I used to take that Nutella spoon in the ice cream. I'll say that was a personal trainer who told me to, like, have you ever tasted that? Oh, it's so good. Like, who the hell are you? What are you saying?
Just trying to get repeat business.
That's great.
Get all the tricks from them, I guess.
Just to respect the time, because we're a little bit over, but we started late.
So this is like one of those Joe Rogan's extended.
Well,
yeah, I feel like we could go on forever. I have a million questions, man. I don't want to take up your time if you have more to do. But do you have anything else you want to point out? Like we didn't talk about mixing food. That's something that I've always been interested in. Like if I just eat like nuts and blueberries in the morning, I feel amazing. But if I have like pasta, vegetables, sausage, then you start like, am I opening up a can of worms here? Like I don't. We can wrap up if you want.
You just got to think there's this whole branch of nutrition that talks about food combinations, but just your gut can take a lot. Your gut can really take a lot. But if you yourself are experiencing bad combinations, that's what I say. Just if it doesn't feel good combining it, don't do it.
You're the scientist and your body's the lab.
Exactly. But just like, you shouldn't mix. Heck, we all know, right? Don't mix pickles with milk. We all know this.
I do that all the time.
Do you? Dunk it?
I actually have this is something I've been hearing in the carnivore community, and I've actually heard it in other diets too, but maybe just get your input on it, is that drinking water directly after eating is a no-no because of flushing out the gut biome and the bacteria. I don't know the facts behind that. I never believed it, but I just wanted to hear it from someone else who's qualified.
Same with, you shouldn't drink cold water, drink it at room temperature. From an evolutionary standpoint, that makes zero sense, and the science can't prove it, right? So what the water does, it will dilute your digestive enzymes. So what? Your body gets the message. It will produce more to compensate. Okay. Your body's a finely tuned system. It knows what to do. But if you keep feeding it non-natural foods like processed foods and sugar, then that's when they mess up. We don't know what to do with this. There's way too much sugar. And so it'll cause an imbalance. But the water aspect, I mean, I was on another podcast and they asked me, like, what do you think of smoothies? I'm thinking, I'm not a big fan of smoothies. If you're in nature, what's the only thing you drink is water, and most of it is cold. So don't tell me I should be drinking room temperature water. We evolved to drink cold water out of streams.
It's true.
And there's no rivers of smoothies.
I love this approach because it's so logical. It's just you're following the lines of nature, and you can use nature because we're here right now. So clearly that system worked. So you can keep referencing back to what worked back then is what should be working right now, because we're the same. We're Homo sapiens. We haven't evolved much. Maybe we got a little bit smarter, but we haven't evolved much biologically at all.
Exactly.
Our pinky toes aren't really working like they used to. And we get our appendix cut out every now and then, but we're pretty much the same.
Exactly.
It's simple. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why I think nutrition research should really go along an evolutionary approach, a functional approach, in order to be worthwhile. So there is a field. It is called ancestral nutrition or functional nutrition, and they do have journals, but we're really a small niche. And I'll admit it, the scientific community is not geared towards this thing because of this holistic aspect of it. But if we take this complex thing, say for example, a client comes to see me and I give them an entire lifestyle redesign, nutrition, sleeping, outdoor exposure, supplementation, exercise, all these things. And then I look at the endpoint and I compare it with your traditional medicine thing. There are more and more studies being designed that way. And there are more and more studies showing that, yes, a holistic nutritional approach is always superior and easier than the traditional approach, which often includes medicines.
Yeah, it's like a you are what you eat. It's Ayurveda. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but like they're saying like medicine and food, it's the same fucking word. Like we're not gonna mix a bunch of stuff in a lab.
It's a question of dosage. It's true.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah, but I mean, they even treat like a sattvic diet in yoga. They take out things like onions and like spicy things because these things are like medicine in their mind. You're not like, why are you putting this in your body? I mean, there's other reasons also because it like messes with your breathing and like there's a whole idea behind it, like an ideology almost. But there's
still some people alive today. They're in their hundreds right now, but they were around when modern medicine, where pills didn't really exist. If you felt sick or something, it was ointments, tinctures, medicinal plants.
Yeah.
It was an apothecary, really. And this is just in some people's lifetimes that we have like these purified compounds, the pharmaceutical industry. And when I teach about medicinal plants to my students, they're millennials, right? They think medicine, they think pills. And it's my job to realize, oh no, for the majority of our existence here on Earth, medicines have always been plants or animals. They've never been pills.
Yeah.
And there's a massive distrust in it. And I understand it because there's so much random shit in the plant where it grows and us. But you look at Ayurveda, and I studied Tibetan medicine for my master's degree. And to translate Western and Eastern medical systems was one of the most frustrating things that I've ever experienced. I can't go up to a Tibetan medical practitioner and say, hey, I'm doing a study on Tibetan medicinal plants and cardiovascular disease, and I'm going to test it for antioxidant and cholesterolemic activity. So what do you recommend? And the practitioner is like, well, it depends. Much like the way I'm talking about, like the way I talk now is the way they talk. It depends on where do they live. And I'll tell you something that blew my mind off, which I thought was freaking silly at the time, but I completely agree. They will actually, on a prescription pad, saying, get a divorce. Your marriage is causing you too much stress and it's killing you. Can you imagine if we could do that? So wow. Back from the doctor today, honey.
Quit your job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
But honestly, why not though? Why not look at all these things? You know, and why are they being ignored in health? It's like the answers are in front of us. Look at everything.
It's just it's the society, man. It's just it's expectation. But we're all sick. What do you got to do, man?
And you said it. It's normalized.
Yeah.
And to this day, I understand the importance of sleep. But if I ask you, like, hey, how's it going? You say, like, I'm freaking busy. I got so much stuff going. I'm sacrificing my sleep. I'm going to think, wow, that's amazing. But if you tell me, dude, I'm sleeping so much, I'm thinking, damn, lazy ass.
Yeah, or depressed or something. It's like, no, man, I'm just relaxed. It's good.
You're not working 40 hours a week. What are you doing with your time? Like, that's a question, you know? It's crazy how it's programmed into us.
Yeah. I'm guilty of it as well. I do have moments, a lot of guilt, actually. But that's society. Yeah. So we got a lot of work to do, but one day we'll all become forest dwellers again.
Hey, it's starting to look like that. I guess we'll have to wrap it. Dude, this was such a fun conversation.
I just want to keep going. I really,
you got to come back on it once the quarantine's lifted, actually come into the studio and, you know, this was so much fun.
My pleasure. Anytime, guys.
I really appreciate this. If you have any plugs anywhere, because anywhere someone can follow you or maybe even work with you or something? Is there anything that I know you have a website if you just want to plug it in?
Yeah, so my website is www.drpatrickowen.com, drpatrickowen.com. My handle at Instagram is drpatowen, and I'm on Facebook as well, Patrick Owen, Ancestral Health, Functional Nutrition. I'm not very active on Twitter, so I'm not going to plug that in. But I do face-to-face or virtual consults, and I do give out highly customized plans based on your measurements. And it starts with that routine. So it's not just a meal plan or a training plan. It's a whole like, hey, I want you to meditate, take cold showers, read a book, go outside, walk around barefoot, expose yourself to this, block out blue light, all these things.
Yes.
And that's the way you go about it. And if a client, let me just say, it works. That's all I want to say. It works.
It sounds like it will.
Dude, I want to study what you studied. Like I'm getting converted here. Like this is really fascinating.
Awesome. Well, you're part of the tribe. It's
I got the bug a while ago.
Our job is to get this podcast out to people who actually feel that. They feel like they're overwhelmed with stress and frustration, and no matter what they do, they just can't get rid of their weight or thyroid issues or gut issues. Those are the people that we need to address, because it's not just about food and exercise. It's about so much more.
That's like scratching the surface of what needs to be changed, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes
being human, it's about all of it. Yeah.
there you go. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right, man. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we're gonna go on forever, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The pleasure's all mine, guys.
Take care.
Take care. I'm gonna.